Dogs Down South. I am your host, Ted Turner. It is SEC Championship Week. Man, it's kind of weird, man. We kind of, you kind of feel like it's that vibe of like we kind of backslid into the SEC Championship, but really we didn't, man. I mean, we played another tough schedule this year, and we've earned the right to be in this game, and a lot of hype already. I mean, with AI now and Chat GPT, man, there's just videos going around everywhere that you don't even know if they're real. I saw these TikTok videos that are basically agging on, Georgia. It's Alabama fans that are like, calling Georgia the puppies and things of that nature. And so, pretty comical. It's not real because I don't know, man. I don't know if you've been that crazy to give Georgia bulletin board material like that, even though there's been Alabama players who have already given Georgia bulletin board material. I don't know how harsh the bulletin board material is, but it is something. But yeah, so it's SEC championship week. It's conference championship week. We'll be seeing the American, the Big 12, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10. Man, so much Conference USA, so much going on this weekend. It's a big weekend for college football, and then obviously Selection Sunday, the big Sunday. That's changed a lot, right? That used to be more of a, you know, you kind of wondered where the bowls would fall. You had like the top four, or the BCS. The BCS was the crazy part. It was like, if you weren't in a bowl, they kind of were like, oh, well, does that mean these people are left? And they would draw it out a little bit and make it all kind of movie-esque. But it's kind of been cut and dry, especially with these Tuesday night shows. And we're live here before it's 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, so we're on before the Tuesday night, the last Tuesday night show before we hear the real deal on Sunday. But before we do that, we're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. We're going to talk about a little stuff about signing day tomorrow, as well as we're going to revisit some coaching carousel things. We're going to look at some statistics going into the SEC championship game. We're going to pick every game from from this weekend, and it's going to be a fun time. We're going to really dive deep into a lot of this stuff. We'll look at the playoff bracket and what maybe we're going to take Andy Staples' version on three, his version of what he thinks this playoff is going to look like after Saturday. So that way, it's not you're not hearing the quote from me. But let's hop in first, though. National Signing Day. I'm rocking and rolling by myself tonight, so if I have to pause a couple times to refresh my voice, please bear with me, but it's going to be a fun night. National Signing Day tomorrow, man. I, I mean, I don't. I mean, I agree with Kirby. I don't know when there is a good time to slide in National Signing Day. You have National Signing Day. You have the dead period. You have the 30-day window of NIL. You have bowl games going on. You have a preliminary on campus games going on during those periods. You have people already, going into the portal as of yesterday. First one from Georgia went in the portal. Daniel Harris is going into the portal, and that's understandable. He's making a decision for himself, and I get it. And maybe he's doing it at a time where it's a little less distractive, per se. But when is there a good time for signing day, and when is there a good time for bad news? But then when is there a time for news that you don't even really know if it's bad or not? Obviously today, breaking news, but maybe it wasn't breaking news, is that five-star quarterback Jared Curtis, who is Georgia's, number one, obviously, quarterback target for the 2026-27 class. A lot of news, a lot of speculation coming out that Vanderbilt has officially flipped Jared Curtis. Sorry, there's a voice clear. Has officially flipped Jerry Curtis. And so a lot of that was coming out. I know I went on TikTok. If you haven't already done so, we're on TikTok, Dogs Down South. Go follow us, like us, give us a shout out. I talked a little bit about the Jared Curtis decision, and I talked about how this is obviously not something that is true to everyone, including Jared Curtis. Now, regardless of whether that was exactly his, Instagram account or whatnot, but his Twitter account, he says, and I quote, "I have no idea where this is coming from. Signing day is tomorrow, and apparently he was at practice and knew nothing about some of this stuff. Maybe he did, but at the end of the day, I think the big thing is I don't know how much weight this can garner. There's been a lot of people that have said that this is not true. That there's parties on both sides that don't know anything about this. And like I said earlier, with AI and technology, like, do you really know if any of that is true? I can spruce together a commitment picture right now, probably of Jared Curtis in a. I mean, I thought about doing it tonight of Jared Curtis in a Vanderbilt uniform. Is probably what was drawn up. I mean, but I don't know if there's any truth to it. I quoted last night on the overreaction show. I said, Vanderbilt, it's an opportunity to start early, but at the end of the day, like, Vanderbilt had their best season that they've had in a long, long time. I mean, you got Diego Pavia, you have the hype, you have his brothers getting arrested every game, you have his mom on. I mean, every time a touchdown pass from Pavia is shown, it's going to go to a picture of his mom. And she's not doing what the average moms are doing, where they're just kind of cheering for their kid. She's over there, causing kind of a scene. It's kind of become the whole background of Vanderbilt is Diego Pavia. I mean, let's just be honest. There's only a few other names that you can actually just go, hey, that player, other than Diego Pavia. And that's a 2-loss 10-2 season for Vanderbilt. And Clark Lee having to post his case for the playoff. And we're going to talk about playoff stuff here in a second before we get into Georgia and Alabama. But, you just wonder, right? You wonder if what Jared Curtis is thinking tonight. You've had so many reports of how his parents are really pro Georgia. They want him to stay close, even though Vanderbilt is close. But they just had their eyes set on Georgia. But I can see too where proximity is huge, and so if his parents and them are kind of going back and forth, and they're like, "We just want you close," well, Nashville is Nashville. It's pretty close. So, but you got to look at the long term future. Like, I think maybe this was a good year for Jerry Curtis to see if Clark Lee and Tim Beck could get Diego Pavia to the league. Um, and he probably will. I mean, I think Diego Pavia will be a really solid pick for somebody in the NFL. But and they may give him a Heisman call. I have no idea, but I do know that it's just one guy. And I will tell you, a lot of Diego Pavia was already Diego Pavia before he came to Vanderbilt. This was when he was at New Mexico State. Um, and so you really don't know how much of quarterback development or progression that was. And you gotta wonder sometimes, it's like, man, did playing as a freshman do anything justice wise for some of these people? You looked at a 5-star Dylan Raiola who jumped Georgia to go to Nebraska to possibly be back in the portal this year. Played as a freshman, didn't play well as a freshman, right? Um, and you looked at, Lenore Sellers, who, yeah, he had, stunts of brilliance last year, and this year he was. And maybe you could garner a terrible offensive line, receivers that drop the ball, lack of run game, lack of offensive coordinator skills to put him in the right place. You can go on, but he didn't have a great sophomore year, and he had a forgettable freshman year. So, and these are, and I would say DJ Lagway as well. I mean, there's nothing proven by any of these guys that I just call their name, um, including anybody outside the SEC that has really proven to be just a stellar freshman candidacy. I can't remember how far back that would go to remember if one happened. I know Matthew Stafford was a huge pick for Georgia as far as out of high school, and okay freshman year. And I mean, he didn't start. I mean, he came in mid year. He wasn't really the guy off day one. But you just gotta wonder, like, is that the best decision for Jerry Curtis? Is he really just acting off of, um, is Vanderbilt selling him a dream that yes, you can start, but will you be successful? Whereas at Georgia, it's proven that if you just take your time. It's proven even. I mean, you look at Arch Manning with all the hype around Arch Manning, and he sat. And I mean, do I think Arch Manning has a chance to have a really good career and finish out at Texas? I think he comes back next year, but that depends on next year. It really does. He can skyrocket everything next year, but I can guarantee you, there's not any NFL scout that's asking, well, I really want to know how their freshman year went. No, they're not. They're more looking at character, how they connect with the team. Obviously, throws. Can they make the tough throws? How do they work under pressure? How do they deal with adversity? I mean, there's a lot more into this game that is only learned sometimes by being in the mix and understanding that you might not be thrown in there day one. You might even can't learn it effectively enough day one if you are taking it on just like a car, running into you. So that's the huge signing day news. So did it happen as we lead up to tomorrow? Did it happen? Who knows? We'll know tomorrow. I mean, by a certain time tomorrow, ink has to hit paper, or in this day and age, something has to be sent in, or you know, uh, and then sometimes that's not binding. It's all about when they enroll for class. You sometimes look and we've seen, well, hey, we've seen all this happen, but until they enroll in school and actually are in a helmet and practicing, I don't guarantee that they're coming either. Not in this NIL era. So you really, really don't know. A lot of other big name signees we're looking at tomorrow too as well. Like I said, bear with me. I'm going to pull some of these up from. Actually, let's go into the bracket first before we go into all that. Andy Staples dropped a bracket, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So we'll look at some of his predictions. I wasn't going to put them on the screen, but we'll kind of hop through them. So he has his top four being. This is post um, post conference championships. He has Ohio State as his one, Indiana as his two. I'm assuming that they're saying that's a close game regardless of who loses, and he's picking Ohio State. So I think he's picking Ohio State for like a 24-20 type game, I guess I would say. And then Georgia at three. I guess he's assuming that they take care of business in the SEC championship. I would say the chances are as the curse of Alabama. At least they know it's a playoff game, or I should say it's a non-regular season game, which Georgia's been a tad more successful against Alabama in the postseason, a lot more than they have the regular season, definitely. And that would bring Texas Tech up to four, presumably saying that he's assuming they're going to win the Big 12 over BYU. And so then that would get Ole Miss, one-loss SEC team, as the um, fifth-ranked team. The sixth-ranked team would be Texas A&M. So I guess they're getting. It's tough, man. It's tough. They got Ole Miss, Texas A&M. That's tough, man. I don't know. I'm assuming they're looking at Ole Miss and Texas A&M. I would I would venture out to say that I would flip A&M and Ole Miss if I was. I mean, I just think when you look at the playoff committee, like they're going to have to look at Lane Kiffin's gone, right? This might have been fifth and sixth based off of with Lane Kiffin was there. I can understand that, but I would probably put A&M six. But they have Ole Miss at five, A&M at six, and then seven would be Oregon, assuming they do not play. They're not playing in the Big Ten championship, so they would stay there. Eight would be Oklahoma, once again not playing in the championship game, so they would probably stay there. Notre Dame hanging in there at nine, assuming that maybe Alabama is going to lose that game to Georgia and not faulting them for losing, I guess, is putting them at 10. 11 would be Virginia. That would be the ACC champion. That would put every other ACC team out besides Virginia. So that would get Miami out of there. And then your 12th team is obviously they're picking Tulane to win their conference, and so that would put Ole Miss playing a home game versus Tulane, Texas A&M playing a home game versus Virginia, Oregon playing a home game versus Alabama, and then Oklahoma playing a home game versus Notre Dame, and then the teams would be waiting on would be Georgia would play the winner of Texas A&M, Virginia. Texas Tech would play the winner of Ole Miss and Tulane, and then Ohio State would play the winner of Oklahoma and Notre Dame, and then Indiana would play the winner of Oregon and Alabama. So that's kind of how that go, and that would be obviously in the New Year's Day slate of bowl games. So those playoff games would be, if I'm not correct, it would be somewhere around between the like 17th and the 20th. Yeah, so that's how that would kind of work out. Very, very spicy take. This is basically saying that everybody that's fighting for their lives to go, hey, we deserve a shot in. The Texases, the 3-loss Texas team, the who else does that leave out? The Vanderbilts. I mean, does Vanderbilt have an argument over I don't know, man. Do they have an argument over a 3-loss Alabama team? That would be what I question. They're in turn going to have 3 losses, whereas, I mean, I guess you would be faulting Alabama for making it to the SEC championship, where I guess, you're saying, well, they could stay at home and not play in that game and be a 10th seed easy. That's wild. Oregon, I would say, in my opinion, probably one of the best games that I'd be looking forward to if this is how it landed would be I'd be interested in Ole Miss Tulane, obviously with an Ole Miss team that is coming in with no Lane Kiffin. I did hear today that Charlie Weiss Jr. would be the offensive coordinator for Pete Golding at Ole Miss. So that's pretty cool. I guess that's the best we can possibly do per trying to keep the players' best interest in mind. That would be an interesting game because you're looking at Tulane and Summerall. Although I think Ole Miss would handle that game pretty well, you just got to wonder how the dynamic of this game looks. I mean, yes, Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to be calling the plays. How well is he accepted? How much does that? It kind of creates a really dynamic that's a little weird. So who knows how well the players respond to that? Do the players want it? I haven't really read a lot into it. I just heard before we came on that he was going to be coming back. And then you look at the other intriguing game, in my opinion, would be Oregon, Dan Lanning coming down to Tuscaloosa. I'm so sorry. Let me flip that. Oregon hosting at Outson, Alabama, which I would have to look it up the last time that Alabama played a game in Eugene, if it's even happened before. That would be very, very interesting. I mean, yeah, Oklahoma and Notre Dame, that's an interesting game, but really that Oklahoma Notre Dame game is tough because I do see that Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame is definitely running the football a lot better, but I just don't know. It's a toss up because Oklahoma, I mean, is their offense going to show up? Their defense has been solid. So is this just going to be a fight between two teams just trying to score and trying not to make mistakes because these defenses are good? Now, if I had to give the defensive edge to one of these teams, I'm going to give it to Oklahoma. And if I have to give the offensive edge, it's going to be Notre Dame, only not because John Mateer's not a great quarterback, because of the fact that I don't trust this Ben Arbuckle offense, and I don't trust Oklahoma to run the ball, and I trust Notre Dame to run the ball. But also, it's an Oklahoma defense who's really good at stopping the run this year. So that's an interesting game. I think the A&M Virginia game is the most uninteresting because I think if Virginia is not in the ACC, I don't know that any ACC team deserves to get into the playoff this year. That's just me. I think that conference this year was really, really, really bad. I think everybody was hoping that Miami and Florida State would pull them out, especially after Florida State started the year off beating Alabama. I think they were hoping that they would pull them out and get the ACC, get 2 teams in there. But as it fares right now, it's looking like obviously Georgia is one of them. A&M is the second. Ole Miss is the third. Oklahoma is the fourth. Alabama. So it looks like the ACC will be getting 5, obviously. The G5 will be getting Tulane, which is the 1. The ACC will be getting 1. The Big 12 will be getting 1. And then you look at the Big 10 pulling in with 3. And then you got Notre Dame, who they're going to let in just because they're Notre Dame, right? There's speculation that, in my opinion, there's some teams outside looking in. I don't know if Texas could beat Notre Dame. The things that I'm concerned about is how does this affect Alabama if it loses the SEC championship? Ohio State, Indiana, I mean, that will both be their first loss. So I can kind of see that. Even though, can you honestly look at these teams and go, Georgia's got a better, I mean, if Indiana loses, or maybe even Ohio State, like, does Georgia have a better win than Ohio State? That's something to think about, and we'll talk about it in a second. But I do think that the interesting part is does Alabama hurt from if they lose to Georgia? I say that because they already have 2 losses, so that would give them their 3rd loss, whereas Georgia would only have their 2nd loss. So I don't think it would. I think it would drop Georgia to like 5th. I think that's kind of what happens. Kind of what happens there. I don't think Alabama jumps to, or maybe they drop to 4th. Maybe Georgia loses that. Depends on how bad it is. They drop to 4th because they own the head-to-head versus Ole Miss. Maybe Texas A&M goes into 4th. Who knows? But I think Georgia either grabs a first-round home game or a first-round bye in that 3rd, with maybe some argument that, and even though, I mean, because the reason that Ohio State and Indiana have been consistently 1 and 2 is because they don't have a loss, right? And they don't play each other until the Big Ten championship. So my question is if Indiana loses, does Georgia have the better wins than Indiana once now they have lost? And when you look at their loss was to an Alabama team that's possibly going to make the college football playoff. But then again, I guess Indiana their best loss would be to an Ohio State team and vice versa. I guess this is what Andy Staples looking at, is the best loss towards the best win. And that's might be what the playoff are going to look at too. So very, very interesting. I think the first 4 teams out, and the teams that really get ousted in this one are, if you're looking for the SEC, I think Vanderbilt and Texas. Man, Texas, I get it, but I don't know, man. I just don't know how that, unless something crazy happens. And I still don't. I mean, Oklahoma can't lose. Oregon can't lose. I mean, Alabama, I mean, I guess you have to look at head-to-head, but you didn't play Alabama. Alabama beat Vanderbilt head-to-head this year. Alabama did not play Texas, but I would say the committee would look at Alabama and go, it's a better loss in the SEC championship than it was your loss in the regular season via Florida or somebody like that. BYU next. Just strength of schedule probably has a lot to play into that. And then Miami, obviously, because of the same reason I just told you. The ACC is just really terrible this year. They're really bad. So yeah, that's kind of the shift. Behind that whole thing. So before we move on, obviously, yes, I say we go back to National Signing Day. A lot of, we're not going to go through one by one. Obviously, you guys are going to look at a lot of really great. I mean, Georgia's still. I mean, if Georgia gets Curtis, I think they slip up to possibly vie for the number 1, number 2 spot. Right now, the number 1, number 2 spots being held by USC. Alabama and Georgia are right there, 5 and 6. I think Notre Dame's up there in the top 3. I just really quickly looked at it, but Georgia and Vanderbilt would be the highest ranked teams in recruiting in the SEC to finish the year off. Notre Dame being 3rd. I think, like I said, USC is first. All right, now let's hop in the moment you've been waiting for. Let's hop in. Let's preview Georgia, Alabama. Let's pick these conference games and let's let's get ready to have a good week and do a countdown and get to the day that everybody's waiting on, and then prediction Sunday. Little back little back stats. I was pulling up today when you look at rankings. I was looking at Alabama, and obviously Alabama. I would say the two main injuries that are concerning for both teams, I think, are for Alabama. Obviously, is Jam Miller. I don't think you see Jam Miller playing this, which is tough for Alabama because they've already found it very hard to find a run game this year, right? Averaging around, I mean, very much not Alabama-esque. Bottom of the college football ranks in running, averaging somewhere around 120 a game. To tell you the difference, Georgia ranks nationally in the top 15, averaging around 190, almost 200 yards a game rushing. So big differential gap there to look at. But overall, Ty Simpson and this offense, this Ryan Grubb powered offense, I guess you would call it, um, passing offense, I would say, ranks number 14 nationally, number 6 in the SEC. Georgia, number 12th nationally, number 4 in the SEC as far as offense. Defense, Alabama's ranking number 9th nationally, number 3 in the SEC per 247 Sports. Georgia ranking number 24th nationally, number 8 in the SEC. That's huge. I mean, I don't know many people that would look at at Georgia and go, "Wow, that's really huge." The big differential in these defenses is the run defense. Georgia's ability to get better in the passing game, but also being able to be so good against the run this year. And then Alabama, on the other hand, being a team that's been a little more vulnerable to the run, but their pass defense has been something that is pretty remarkable this year. Overall, statistic wise, offense, defense, special teams, Alabama comes in right around 10th nationally, number 2 in the SEC. Georgia comes in right about number 11, number 3 in the SEC. So very, very tight statistically. Um, Nearly neck and neck with these two teams as far as how they ended the year statistically. Defensively, you look at Alabama. I don't know if there's any kind of clear advantage other than the metrics with these two teams as far as defense is concerned. I think they both are built a little bit different. If I would say one thing that stood out a little bit different is the ability to get pressure on the quarterback has been something that Alabama's done a pretty good job with this year. Georgia has been doing a better job as of late. I think Kirby Smart hit the nail on the head earlier in the year where he said, we're if you're looking for those guys that are just lining up and that are just lining up and going to just blow people off the ball and just naturally get to the quarterback. That's not something you're seeing in the college football anyway, and that's not something you're going to see with Georgia this year. Have we seen it a couple of times? Yeah, we saw a couple of really good plays last week against Georgia Tech. You saw Gabe Harris make a really great swim move um, against Georgia Tech and get a sack. I think Gabe Harris has done a really great job. I think the reason why, in my opinion, that you're seeing a little bit more of quarterback pressure by Georgia's defense as the year has got into late October, November has been because of the progression of the defensive line, and that's tough because Jordan Hall obviously out with a season-ending injury. Um, we've had some spots where we've had some injuries on that front line, but rotating different people out. Gabe Harris doing a great job. Elijah Griffin coming into his own. Obviously, Christian Miller holding it down. There's just a lot of big, big names up there that were not getting to, that were not clogging up some of those holes and filling some of those gaps so that some of these linebackers and edges could run free. That's been huge for Georgia, but I would say Alabama has kind of hair more advantage in that area. But stopping the run, I think both teams, even though statistically they're pretty close, I mean, you've seen some exposure to Alabama as far as the run game is concerned. I think Georgia, we all know that they had a hard time during the beginning of the year trying to figure out how to play this passing game, how to mesh together. I think DeMello Jones panning out. I think just a little bit more of continuity with the defense playing together and the secondary playing together. KJ Bolden meshing with Ja'Cory Thomas and Aguero, and I mean, just a lot of different things. Cole being able to drop back and play some some on-ball defense as far as covering the pass as a linebacker has been really crucial. And I think this team is. I think we're peaking at the right moment as far as the secondary, as far as the defense is concerned. Kirby said it himself. I mean, we've been growing up all year. I mean, this is the new college football, right? NIL is a huge deal, and it's going to continue to be this way. There's going to be a lot of roster turnover the entire year, not just because you're losing seniors and juniors, because you're losing people that want more playing time. You're losing people that I don't know. Maybe they just don't want to be there anymore. Maybe they just don't like the school they're at, or the culture they're at, or the coach. Maybe the coach leaves and they have the opportunity to leave. So you're going to see much more than that. It's going to get a lot more regular. Um, so yeah, other statistics to look at before we look into the keys to the game is, it's been really big. One big statistic that jumps off the page to me. It's one that not a lot of people really look at in this scenario. Is I do, however, I've seen one that has jumped off at the page to me that could really come to haunt Alabama, and that's special teams. Their field goal kicker has been a little bit shaky, and man, I would say when you look at Georgia, you look at the effectiveness of how special teams has been a key every single year that Kirby's been at Georgia, and what he does on special teams, and the coaches are just so special. And having it's just, man, when you have a special teams unit that Kirby Smart really believes that they are a huge difference maker. They win tons of games, but they lose you a heck of a lot more than they win you, which means what? You don't need the special teams unit out there, with the weakest links here and there to be able to have to lose the game depending upon what part of the game and what part of the quarter we're in, that something could change hands. So that's been huge. Special teams is a glaring obvious to me for Peyton Woodring to be out there over this Alabama kicker that I can't call his name right now, but he has some woes. And could that be something that comes down to haunt? Could this be a game based more off of two defenses that are maturing and two offenses that may now be in the realm of knowing you got two defenses that are really pumped up, they're really into December, and in their growth status, they're growing at a higher level than the offense is maintaining. And if you get this game to be close and it comes down to special teams, like, I got to say that Georgia is going to be really a team that I'm looking at to go, yeah, if it comes down to that, like, I do believe Peyton Woodring can win this game for us by 9, 12 points, as long as we connecting on. I mean, he's a weapon. Whereas I'm sure Alabama, I think they're a little more towards the point of going, at what point do we go for it, or what point do we have to make a tough decision, right? So that's huge. As far as keys to the game, let's look at that real quick, and then we're going to hop into picks, and call it a day. I had a really cool scenario before we get into keys, and I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and a question was asked. I think I posed the question. I said, Kalen DeBoer is 2-0 versus Kirby, right? The first question that was given to Kalen DeBoer, I don't even say it was a question to him, but everybody was commenting on this as they were like, you know, can Kalen DeBoer come in and beat a Kirby Smart, or is this where Kirby kind of becomes the Nick Saban of this rivalry, right? Where he starts to own the dynamic, and you see Georgia going on some of these runs that they've gone on with Tennessee and Georgia Tech, and team in Texas, and teams in Florida, and teams of that nature, where they have just really owned the head-to-head the last 7, 8 years. Um, I missed the opportunity to go 6, 7 years. Um, but I asked the question, what does Kalen DeBoer have with Alabama that Kirby Smart and Georgia don't? And maybe vice versa. So I came up with a few things. I looked at momentum. I think Kalen DeBoer has a little momentum on his side. He's conquered that giant twice now. So he's not walking into these games intimidated. He's not walking into these games going, I'm still in Nick Saban's shadow, at least as far as the Georgia Alabama rivalry, right? Includes last season. The close win, yet it really felt at times like it was going to get out of hand. And I went back and watched the game from this year. I mean, I felt like there was times when that game could have got out of hand, but Georgia has been a team that you can just assume they're not going to go away this year, right? 17-7 this year. In the regular season, they come back after halftime, score. Alabama scores. We get it to 24-21, and we decide to go for it, and we don't get it, and then no team touches the end zone the rest of the game, but barring even touching any field goal attempts. I think familiarity in the psychological edge for Alabama is huge. They've been here before, won this game before, not just in the SEC championship, but you know against Georgia, right? We just I feel like I had the privilege of being able to hang out with former quarterback Hudson Mason, and I'm going to put some of those clips back up on our TikTok channels. So go check those out. But when we talked, it was like man, this is a Georgia team who it just feels like you have this weight on your back, this Alabama weight on your back, and it's just like it feels like a fog. It feels heavy. It feels almost weird, right? It just feels weird. It's hard to describe. The only thing I'm clinging to is the fact that we have had a little bit of success postseason against Alabama, but dang near zero in the past, I would say 10 years in the regular season. So I think that's a glimmer of hope there. But so there's a psychological edge for Alabama. They've often beat Georgia. I mean, it's kind of like Georgia, Alabama's their boogeyman type set. In close games, Alabama has found ways to win, and that mental edge may matter in tight moments, and then Alabama's defense, consistently, even after Saban has left, has been. You would think they were going to drop off. Cade Womack has done a pretty good job. Are there people have said that is this Alabama defense a little more susceptible to things this year, last year? Of course. I mean, it's Womack. It's not Nick Saban. It's not some of these Nick Saban defenses of old, but have held their own. In my opinion, right now among the top units nationally, only allowing about 16.5 points per game. Crazily enough, Georgia's right there, only averaging, giving up around 16.8, some crazy number. It's right there, very tight. And motivation for Alabama and DeBoer, like winning an SEC title, nailing down a strong resume for the college football playoff is huge. That's kind of what they have in their back pocket. Where, I think, looking at some of the bracketology things, a lot of people are not punishing Alabama for if they lose this game, but I think they would much rather want to boast their resume and possibly get a home game in Tuscaloosa, right? How can they flip the script on that? The change is that those teams that win these conference games don't automatically get, booted up to a bye. So that's what makes it different this year. And then for Georgia, I think, you look at Georgia. Georgia's shown effectiveness. Kirby Smart in general, both offensively and defensively. I think, strong rushing attack, capable quarterback in Stockton, and fundamental defense that just doesn't. This team doesn't go away. I do think there has been times where you looked at Alabama this year, and even when they played Florida State, that the entire resume of who they are, you wondered what happened there, right? I mean, I know it's a wet, sloppy game, but who do they turn to when those things are happening? Who's going to step up and who's going to carry the load? I think you're seeing Ty Simpson step up and do some of that. Maybe some Lawson, and maybe there's some other guys out there, but you definitely can lean on Georgia to look like, what adversity looks like this year and who's going to take that on more. Consistency from season to season. Obviously, Georgia finishing 11-1, 7-1 in the SEC, overcoming adversity. A lot of games there was games they were behind, and they just did not go away, did not want to die. Resilience, mental toughness. I think, I don't know, man. I look back at the Iron Bowl for Alabama, and I just wonder, was that mental toughness or was that just a break when Cam Coleman drops the ball? I have said this since the game happened. I'm glad that Alabama got an offense in Auburn that doesn't exist right now. If you give Auburn an offense that night, it's a long, long night, because I do think Auburn did enough to win that game defensively. I really do. Motivation, home turf in Atlanta, SEC. They were just there previous week, so it's kind of like a deja vu entering in the same place, possibly the same locker room. Just been there. It's like a run through for them. Definitely something that if you look back and go, I couldn't have planned it any better, right? And then coaching stability. You look at Kirby Smart and his staff being able to stay together, and you do look at DeBoer's staff that's obviously brought in Ryan Grubb and made some changes around the front. They do have one of their co-offensive coordinators that are leaving to go to Oregon State, and so you look at consistency and the ability for Kirby to keep a staff together. That's definitely something, in my opinion, DeBoer doesn't have. But the bottom line is DeBoer brings the recent success versus Georgia, which is big, which is what looms over everybody's thoughts. But I do think that Georgia has a lot to be excited about in this rematch. The ability of how well they ran the ball against Alabama, the ways they were able to hold them to only 7 points in the second half and make adjustments and make Ty Simpson do some things that he wasn't comfortable doing, but just not getting, I guess, the run of the run of the mill where they can just look and go, all right, we had a chance, we blew it. We didn't have a chance after that, you know. So it was kind of the defenses taking over on both sides. So it's a huge storyline because these are two coaches that are not just going to come in and roll over. I mean, there's going to be a team that gets down at important parts of this game, and what are they going to do to be resilient and get back up and stay in there and stay motivated? And there's going to be a team that takes off maybe, and can they be, you know, can they be disciplined enough to not let this become something that it's like we had it in the bag. The next thing we know, we're turning around and we're, kind of pulling an Ole Miss versus Georgia later on, where it's like we looked at the score and it was a done deal, and then we turn around and look and it's go, Georgia's up by 10. We were sealing the game, and now we're behind. It's just wild, but it's going to be a key factor as far as things, storylines. What has to happen? I mean, we're gonna keep this very short. I encourage you, if you haven't done so, go to YouTube, find the Georgia Alabama game from the regular season. There is a version that is a every play by play. The great thing about if you have a Roku or something of that matter, if you just click the button a few times, you can see it fast forwarding. You can stop it, and you can kind of take the commercials and take the middle of the gameplay out and everything. And I went through the entire game and watched it in about 25 minutes. So so that was a good thing. Georgia needs to avoid slow starts. I think this is a huge game. I mean, Georgia went down 14-0 against Alabama, and I just continue to look back and go, if we can find any way to just slow down the projection, it's weird. It's like either fast start or we have to slow the other team down. I think that's huge for Georgia, not getting behind against Alabama again and having to play from behind, turnovers, protecting the ball. You've seen Gunner just through a few balls that have just been questionable lately. And I think you heard Kirby challenge, Gunner, and I think Kirby knows how to get to Gunner's ear. I think Kirby. It's not that Gunner doesn't like that, but Gunner understands. He understands the challenge. He understands the assignment, right? And then seeding will loom large in this whole thing. I think Alabama's playing. I mean, both are playing for an SEC championship, which is a huge goal, a huge win. But both of them are looking and going, "Hey, like we have a chance to host. Um, I'm sorry, not host, but to have a bye the first time around and watch these teams beat up on us and have an extra few weeks to rest and get healthy, and that would be great for Georgia, right? It'd be great for Alabama. Could they get Jam Miller back? We still don't have really a final injury report on where Drew Bobo and Chauncey Billups are at for this game, right? And so that's a huge thing. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a great game. Let's hop straight in and let's get out of here and let's make these picks. Give me 1 second to hop into my friend. If you are doing so right now too, you can hop over into ESPN and we're gonna pull up the conference championships and we're going to look at each one of them and we're gonna pick these games and how they're gonna land. Man, you can click. That's crazy, man. You can literally click AI and man, it's crazy. Click the wrong thing. You can read. I'm still reading Jerry Curtis stories that just don't really exist. Um, they've already said they don't exist. So yeah, one more second. Last thing we're looking at right here, hopping in to NCAA. I should have been prepared. I had so many screens up. I mean, doing a solo dolo, man, it can be challenging. So let's see here. Scores. All right. So here we are. We'll start it from the bottom and we'll go to the top. 7 o'clock ESPN. This is Friday, December 5th. 7 o'clock Troy um, headed to James Madison. This is the Sun Belt Championship. Clear my throat. 11-1 James Madison, 8-4 Troy. Right now, James Madison is a 23.5 point favorite in this game, and I think I don't know, man. I really think it's going to be tough. This is really, really tough. I think James Madison to be for James Madison to have a chance. Right now, they're in 25th. North Texas is 24th. If Tulane takes care of business, it's a no brainer. But North Texas and James Madison, man, it's going to come down to, you know, maybe North Texas would have the better win. So I don't know. Maybe James Madison's out of it, but the way you look at it, both ends. But I'm going to take James Madison in this game. I think James Madison has a very high-powered offense. I do think Troy has a defense that has been able to slow down some of these high-octane offenses this year. But this is James Madison has a really cool offense. They have a great scheme. They have really fast. I call them athletes that fit the play style. They have really great athletes that fit the play style. So I think athleticism shows in this one. James Madison. I don't know about covering. That's hard, right? In a conference championship to go out there and win by 23.5. I do not think James Madison covers, but I do think they win. And if I'm going score prediction, I'm going to take James Madison in this one, 27, and I'm going to have Troy getting 17 points. So 27-17 for me. I think you give James Madison 10. ABC, 8 o'clock that same night. You get number 24, North Texas, playing Tulane. This is going to be in the American Athletic Championship. Tulane, obviously, Summerall coming back to coach now what will be his former team. And I don't know, man. I don't know how this pans out once playoffs hit. Is this the same thing? Is this a Lane Kiffin scenario? I don't know what this looks like, but I don't know how to gauge that. But I guess that's not what we're talking about tonight. So North Texas, right now, a slim North Texas 2.5. I'm assuming that the winner is going to get in because of the fact that North Texas will have the better win as far as the conference championship. I'm assuming. I like Tulane in this. Give me Summerall. Summerall is going to be coaching, his last few times around, and I think he gives it his all. I think Tulane takes care of business. There's a reason why everybody has them as that G5 representative in the 12th spot. So give me Tulane. 2.5 is what North Texas was getting me. Give me Tulane by 4 points. I got them at 34-30. 34-30. North Texas loses, drops the AAC conference championship to North Texas. And then Saturday, 12 o'clock noon, Big 12 championship, Texas Tech playing against BYU. Right now, BYU coming in and wondering if they're still going to have their coach. A lot of rumor about BYU possibly losing their coach to Penn State. Who knows? I don't know what Penn State's doing, to be honest with you. They got to be waiting on somebody, I hope, because if they come out of nowhere and just pick somebody, I'm going to be confused. But honestly, this is a no-brainer for me. I mean, do I think BYU can cause a ruckus? Yeah, but man, Texas Tech is just playing really well. I think deserves to be in this Big 12 championship. Very much so the pride of the Big 12 is Texas Tech this year. So that 11-1 record's real. I think Texas Tech covers. I think give me Texas Tech 31. Give me BYU 17. I think Texas Tech takes care of business. And then ACC, 8 o'clock. This is kind of getting out of order now. 8 o'clock ABC game. Duke heading down to Virginia, 10-2 versus 7-5 Duke. Slim margin right now that Vegas is giving Virginia 3.5. Playing it down in Charlotte, or I should say up in Charlotte, North Carolina. if there's one game where I looked at making go wonky is this one. You tend to wonder because how crazy the ACC has been. Um, you tend to wonder what's going to go on, and this one's no different for me. I do think Virginia has a really great offense. I think they have a quarterback who can do some really big things, but I think this comes down to defense. And 3.5 points is the reason I think Virginia's a little worried about defense in this game. I think that's why you're only seeing that 3.5 points. And this is the one I'm picking to shake up the world. If Duke can go in and beat Virginia, this really shakes everything up. Maybe you bring a Miami into play. I'm just curious to see what this looks like. Can Duke? I mean, does Duke slide in? I think I mean, it gets weird if this happens, but this is my upset of the weekend. Is give me Duke to go into Charlotte and beat Virginia, and I'm calling game-winning field goal. Man, it's low scoring. Give me 24-21 Duke over Virginia, game-winning field goal, and Duke messes up the entire college football playoff. 8 o'clock, Indiana, number 2 Indiana versus number 1 Ohio State. 4.5 towards Ohio State in this one. Kirk Cignetti is going to be the cool, calm, and collective, but behind the scenes probably pissed that he's not picked to win this game. But I think this game right here comes down to, in my opinion, which team can run the football and which team can uh, deliver explosives, right? I think, in my opinion, that Ohio State struggled. Now, granted, it was snowing against Michigan, but one thing that they struggled against Michigan was the explosives, right? Um, so I honestly think that Indiana has a really good chance of getting this done. Now, will I pick them? Probably not. I mean, do I like Ohio State in this one? No, I don't like Ohio State. I don't like Indiana really either. I don't like either one of these teams, obviously. But the team I think can get it done, the team that I think will get it done, has to. I'm gonna say, and this is why I didn't think it was my upset of the week because I don't know if this is an upset. These are two undefeated teams, but something about Cignetti, man, and Ryan Day hasn't had his like blow up moment this year, right? He got over Michigan. He got over the hump. Wouldn't it be like Ryan Day to get over the hump of Michigan and then to have the Big Ten championship staring him in the face and to blow it, right? So give me Indiana on this one and give me Indiana by something really crazy, right? Um, I'm saying maybe like a 4 point swing. So I got 38-34 Indiana. Give me the upset. And one of the big reasons is because of the fact that I think Indiana is going to be able to run the football a little bit more effectively than Ohio State will. And I just think Cignetti finds enough trickery and plays enough good defense. And I think that you haven't seen Ohio State really play anybody this year. I don't. And if you're asking me about Michigan, don't do that, right? And if you're asking me about Texas, don't do that. Okay. Ohio State. This will be their one of their biggest tests, maybe all year. Obviously all year, but just in general. But I got Indiana in this one, and then obviously the SEC championship, 4 o'clock, ABC, Georgia, Alabama. Right now, Georgia, a very slim 2.5 point favorite. Um, Against this one. I'm going to be quick with this one. Okay, I think that Georgia gets his revenge. I think that a little bit of the hex Alabama on Georgia is a regular season thing. We've been able to do some good things in the postseason. I think this game is a little bit more of a defensive battle. I think this is two teams that are going to try to run the football because I think Georgia is going to scheme a little bit more up for the pass, knowing what Ty Simpson did to them last game. I think with Jam Miller being out, you take your chances on that, right? I think with Ryan Williams having a little bit of the off year this year that he's having, you take a little more chance with, trying to get to Alabama in some different ways and being scared of what they can do to you. And I think that gives Georgia a huge favorite. The ability to run the football is going to be the difference maker for Georgia, and the ability to get to Ty Simpson will be the difference. And I think Georgia takes care of business in this one. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say Georgia's good enough, in my opinion, to win this game by 10 points. But I'm going to give them 6 points against Alabama. Um, which always makes it a little weird, in my opinion. But give me 35. I'm sorry, give me 34-28. Georgia wins the SEC championship and goes on to have a bye in the playoff. So that's it for tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed it. If you haven't already done so, please go like and follow Dogs Down South, Apple Podcasts. Obviously, right up here in the corner, you'll see we're on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Dogs Down South. You can get us 24 hours later on Apple Podcasts. Listen to it as you go into work, as you're coming home from work, when you're just hanging out, doing some different things, and you want to turn us on, turn us on. Please go like and follow. We appreciate the support. Also on TikTok, Dogs Down South, almost any podcasting platform. Go find us, follow us. The support is appreciated. Dog fans, I got a feeling about this one. It's going to be a good week. It's going to be a good weekend. And then Selection Sunday is right around the corner. And so it is that time of year again. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week leading up to championship weekend. And cheering on the dogs this weekend will be fun, praying for a victory. And for all of Dog Nation out there and everyone who follows Dogs Down South, we say it every time we end the show. And I think we say it every time we leave a game. Go Dogs.